Listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes, and I'm very privileged to have Miss Nrgy here with me, and she is a mastery coach. I'm going to learn a little bit more about that, and she's got a few things to talk about. One, you've got an audio book. Yeah.
I do. So if we'll jump right into it, I actually have it here, one of my copies. It's actually an introductory audio coaching program. So the way I like to describe it is it's kind of like that step before officially signing up with a coach to get actual coaching services and to sign up for like multiple sessions and within an actual coaching package. So this is for those who are just kind of new to the whole coaching space, who's not sure if they need to work with a coach or maybe a therapist, or maybe those who are looking to find some sort of solution that's a little bit more cost effective as well. So I created this audio coaching program, and it's called What's Your Passcode? Keys to Accessing the Life of Your Dreams. And so basically I go through, there's 7 keys in here that I talk about specifically. And we pretty much go through the different ones of everything that you need to learn in order to create the foundation of who you are to your core, not who I think you should be, not who other people think you should be. It's all about who you desire to be, basically becoming the best version of yourself. So I do have that here and it's available. I'll provide a link if I can to you, Kyle. I'll provide a link and you can put it down in the description. And I may also even provide some sort of discount for your listeners. Ooh. And I'll give you that code as well. I think I'll do that.
Well, I think it's important, and believe me, I've had a few life coaches on the show that I think it's important that they get to know who they're going to be talking to, and with something like that, that's a great introduction. And before we get into all that, tell us a little bit about you.
Fantastic. So as he mentioned earlier, my name is Nrgy and is actually my real name. I am a certified life and relationship coach. I actually go by the self-mastery coach. Everything that I do day in and day out is all about mastering yourself, mastering your mind, mastering your emotions, and mastering your assignment. I'm also a keynote speaker, also a court-registered mediator and arbitrator. And then with that product, I am now an author as well. I've been doing coaching and mediating for almost 2 decades now, just a few years short of 2 decades. So I've been doing this for quite a while. I finally decided to go from doing it part-time, and a few years ago I decided to go ahead and turn it into full-time. But I've had my hands involved in everything's personal development and self-improvement for quite some time now. So pretty much anything that I do, it's always going to be along the lines of effective communication as well, personal development, time management, productivity, work-life balance, you name it. If there's anything, any area in your life that you're having some sort of issue in, or there's another term I want to use, I can't think of it right now, but some sort of issue or concern in, then definitely reach out to me and we can do a consultation to see if that is something that you can benefit from as far as coaching, receiving coaching services. It is completely different from therapy. So I do want to mention that up front as well. A lot of people still don't quite know the difference. Mm-hmm. And coaching is basically, as a coach, we don't diagnose you. That's one of the main things as far as how I like to describe the differences between coaches and therapists. But other than that, that's pretty much me. You know, I love what I do. I truly believe that I am walking in my purpose by now going full-time as a coach and as a mediator, because at the end of the day, my heart is to help people, help individuals become the best version of themselves, to help them win, because I'm seeing too many broken hearts out here, too many people giving up on life. Too many people who are just going through a lot of issues and a lot of obstacles without knowing how to get out from underneath all of that weight, without knowing how to get to the other side of the things that they're going through. And so I do my best to put people back into the driver's seat of their life. So that's me in a nutshell.
Hmm. So you said you've been doing this a couple of decades. What did you start when you were 2?
Well, thank you. I'll give a little bit of a hint to my age. I actually have a child in college. So if that kind of helps you do the math, then there you go.
Gotcha. I would have guessed you were in your mid to maybe late 20s.
Thank you. I will take that as a compliment. Yes.
Now, as a life coach, you basically help people by giving them the tools that they need to succeed.
Yeah, definitely. And basically it's giving them the tools, but also pulling out the answers that they already have.
Hmm.
That's the beauty of coaching. It's not necessarily teaching someone to become someone different or someone whom they're not. We're actually working to pull out who you truly are, and then giving you the tools and the strategies and the techniques on how to apply yourself and how to handle just a day-to-day life as well.
Yeah. I think, the life coach is there to remind you of all those things that you already knew. It's amazing. When I started going to therapy, the therapist just drew it out of me. See, you had the answers all along. You just needed to be reminded. Now, I do want to know, because I have had several life coaches, and I know not everybody blends in well with certain people. What kind of sets you apart from the others?
I would say the one of the things that makes me a little bit more different is the fact that I'm also a mediator. So with being a mediator, you are dealing with hostile situations. You're dealing with multiple parties at one time, and the techniques and the skills that we learn in mediation training, it helps us, or at least for me, I actually am able to use those same techniques in coaching. And the thing about mediation, we learn a way, and it's similar to coaching as well, but by being a mediator, it just kind of enhanced what I already have, is being able to hear what people are saying, but also hearing what they're not saying, and being able to make it make sense,
Mm.
while also being very skillful at not taking their side, even if it's just that one client in the coaching session, being careful not to take the side of what coaches call a limiting belief,
Mm.
but still also being able to relate, be relatable, understand who that person is, understand what they're trying to say, even though they may not be using appropriate language or empowering language. So that would be one of the things that I would say that sets me apart, is the fact that I'm also a mediator. But then other than that, another big piece is that I only coach on things that I've dealt with.
Mm.
So things that I have actually gone through, I'm just using what I'm teaching or coaching, the things that I used that helped me get out of my situations, that helped me just kind of continue to push through and to not give up. Because what is that saying? I don't look like what I've been through. Better believe it. So I've gone through quite a lot that people would be surprised. And I just literally use my life and my experiences to coach others through theirs. And I can relate. It's not me just coming from things that I may have read in a book or things that I may have been taught in class. No, I actually lived these things that we're discussing right now.
Well, that takes me back to when I worked for the city. They would have those engineers that would tell you how to do your job, and they've never been out in the field. And then you try to explain to them why something's not going to work, but they still are like, well, I've read this and I've got a degree and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, look, if you haven't actually put your hands on it, I'm not going to listen to you.
Right. Oh my gosh. There's something about the hands-on and knowing that if you're going to someone, if you're coming to me as a coach, as your coach, then to know that, hey, I've actually walked the same path before. So I know exactly what you're dealing with. And I can even tell you what's coming around the corner to help you be prepared for that as well. There's nothing like that. That just, gives you that confidence, that reassurance that, okay, then I can do this, and I love just to kind of see a client just breathe once they hear that, yeah, I've been through that before, or no, you're not the only one that has ever experienced that. You're not crazy, so
Can you
yeah.
talk about the biggest obstacle you've had in your life?
The biggest one for me is going through a divorce. And I got married young. Um, Going through a divorce after about 4 years of being married, dealing with infidelity, dealing with physical abuse. So all of that was a part of my marriage, and needing to figure out how I was going to continue to move forward without becoming a statistic, without handing off my child to my parents, because that was not an option for me. That was I got married, we decided to have a child, and I needed to take care of my own responsibilities. At the same time, I was also in school full time and working, so going through all of that and trying to balance it out, that was the toughest time in my life. And it was so many times to where I could have given up or stopped or just said, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to pursue my dreams. Let me just, do the bare bone minimum of just, surviving, or, any of those other, again, stereotypical um, choices that some people tend to make when in the position that I was in. And I refuse to just give in. I refuse to give up. I refuse to, just accept settling. I refuse to do that. And because of that divorce, that is part of why I am who I am today and where I am today, because I, I, I don't, it doesn't help the individual when they allow that situation with that one person, that isolated incident, to affect the rest of their lives negatively. It also, for me, I did not want it to sour my experience of marriage. And so I see that, way too often. And so I said, if there's anything that I can do to help other people still see the beauty of love in a healthy marriage, then I definitely wanted to do my part. But and so once I got through that divorce, being a single parent, started off co-parenting, and then eventually a full-time single parent, like literally doing it all on my own, um, with no help at all, no communication, no anything. After we got divorced, it was like, okay, you gotta put your big girl shoes on and pull your pants up, and let's push through, because you can't quit. You have now someone, you have a human being, a child whose life is in your hands. And having that responsibility and that weight, it was quite tough because I didn't expect that. So yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I raised two boys on my own after the divorce. I was fortunate enough they were in junior high, so it was a little bit easier. I mean, they could wipe their own butts by that point, but
Yeah.
you know, it's not easy when the other parent's really not involved. And I didn't get financial help, nothing.
Same. No financial help, no phone calls, no, like, it's just like the person dropped off the face of the earth.
Mhm.
And that literally has been my life for some years now, over a decade and a half.
So that was your inspiration to get into life coaching.
It actually reignited or sparked something that, or let me say it this way, it watered the seed that was previously planted. So coaching and mediation, I also, my first exposure to it was back in grade school. And I think it was middle school is when my teacher and the principal of the school that I went to, they were starting a new program, and it was called peer mediation. And out of the entire school, they chose 2 students. I was one of those 2 students. And the teacher and the principal, they called us to the office. They explained to us what the idea was, and they let us know that they saw character traits within us that would fit being an effective communicator, being someone who wouldn't judge other people, being someone who has an ability to understand different people's situation, even if we don't agree with it. And also being able to give good advice, even back then in middle school, they saw that in me. And that was my first exposure to it from the counselors, the teachers, and the principal. And so we went through training to learn how to become a peer mediator. We learned certain skills and techniques, basically the same things that we use today, or that I use today. And I didn't realize it back then, but it's, everything comes full circle. And so here I am today. And basically that seed got planted, or that exposure was created back then in grade school.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. There's maybe someone in the audience that's listening right now, or they're watching this, and they're going through something in their life, and they just feel like, oh, no, there's no hope for me whatsoever. What's been the most difficult case that you've had, or client that you've had, that you could say could be an inspiration for that person to say, well, maybe I have hope after all?
Yeah, so depending on exactly what their specifics are, we could get really down to it. But generally speaking, all of my cases pretty much come with that, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do? Or I can't win for losing, or every time I take 2 steps forward, I get pushed 5 steps backwards, so forth and so on. And the thing that I would say, that again, that I see in all of my cases to some degree, or clients to some degree, is one, the willingness to know that they do have options. Like there is a way out of this situation, or there is what they call it, the light at the end of the tunnel. You first just have to understand and know that that exists, and that is a possibility. But then after going through working with a coach, like that would be the other thing. Find someone, a mentor, a coach, a therapist, all of these different resources. We are out here. They are available for you to give you the tools and the techniques to help give you the answers that you may not have just quite thought of yet. Sometimes you have to think outside of the box, for situations that you're in, especially if it's not a regular everyday, situation. If this is something unique that you've never dealt with before, find a resource, connect with someone to help push you through, or give you the guidelines, or be your motivation and your inspiration. So I would say connect with the coach as well. That has been another thing that, of course, my clients have been able to use to help get through them certain situations, help for them to get through certain situations. And other than that, it's all about the mindset. You have to change your way of thinking. That's another thing that I'm going to say that has been a common denominator, for my clients, to just kind of give inspiration to other people who are listening right now. You have to change your way of thinking. You have to start seeing the positive in these situations. That has been changing the mindset, has been the toughest thing for clients, because we have to unlearn what we've learned. We have to, kind of get rid of the habits. We have to get rid of the things that have not been working for us, but yet, those are the things that we know, the things that we've been taught as children, things that we've been taught as teenagers, things that we've, picked up as an adult now. We have to unlearn the things that we have learned, and then start recreating new thought processes, new habits, new ways of doing things. And that would be the toughest thing, now that I'm talking about it, that clients have to do, they have to make that switch of their way of thinking. And that typically means being very intentional and mindful of finding the positive in any and every situation, no matter how bad your situation may look. There's a positive in it, and you just have to dig deep. Sometimes you have to dig really deep to find the positive in that situation. And then that's when you start seeing things turn around for you. It all starts here. It starts in the mind.
I don't want to make it seem like I'm just talking about myself, but I'm the only uh, sample that I can talk about. But a few years ago, I started having really bad chronic pain and a lot of nerve damage, that kind of thing. And when I went to the doctor, found out that I had a disease in my spine, and it was onset from my diabetes. It causes the bone to deteriorate. And so it got to the point where I couldn't work. I could have easily just given up, and I'd be laying on the couch right now watching television doing nothing. But I found something that I really, really enjoy. And so I found a positive in what happened to me is it allowed me to do this full time. So if somebody's out there and they're going through something like that, you can find something like podcasting, or even if you just go to the library and read to little kids every day, or go to the old folks home and spend time with them, that find a purpose. Find a purpose, and it will change you in so many ways. I love doing this. I love getting those messages from people saying, thank you for bringing that guest on. They really helped. And there's some kind of motivating factor, and no matter how dark it looks. So with that in mind, what's been the biggest triumph in your career?
Did you say in my career or just in general? I'm sorry.
Just, well, it could be in general.
Okay.
Whether it's you personally or someone you worked with.
I would have to say, and using the term that you just used, but I'm so grateful for being able to say that this was an achievement for myself, but literally discovering my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I am grateful for. I wake up every day just being thankful that I finally figured it out, because it took me years.
Mm-hmm.
And with having that purpose, and I'm just gonna, go off of or add on to what you were saying, the importance of having your purpose, discovering your purpose, finding a purpose in life is going to help you. And when I say you, speaking generally, is going to help people when the going gets tough. Having a purpose is what gives you a reason to live.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, unfortunately, when life, just seems to be too heavy and it's too dark, and they may have exhausted all of their options. If a person has a purpose, then that gives them a reason to get up every day and to find a way to make the day the best that they can, whether that be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, whatever it is. They will find a way to push through whatever is going on, push through the pain, they'll push through the noise, they'll push through the fear.
Mm-hmm.
And not only because I know what I went through with trying to figure out, why am I here? What I know, there's more. Like I knew that there was more to life than just waking up, going to work for someone else, coming back home, cleaning, doing errands, going to sleep, and doing it all over again, feeling like I was living in a fishbowl, just swimming in a circle.
Yeah.
I knew there was more to life. I was not satisfied or fulfilled with just my life years ago. And I started the journey and I was trying to figure it out. I tried this, I tried that. I created this business. I was doing this hobby. I was doing that project. I was doing as many different things as I could, but it was a part of the process until I narrowed it down. And it was like clear as day. What I'm doing right now as a coach, as a speaker, as a mediator, this is me operating in my purpose. And this is now what I do full time as a career. I went ahead and said, you know what, let me go all in. And I took that leap and closed down one of my other companies. I had a media company that I provided multiple services for different clients, different events, different venues. And I said, I could be putting that time and that effort all into this business instead of doing this part-time. Let me go full-time because I know this is where I'm supposed to be, and I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. So finding my purpose, discovering my purpose, and living my purpose, this is my greatest victory.
Did you find when you discovered what you really wanted to do that it even made you a better parent and everything else in your life?
100%, because first of all, everything became so clear.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, things started to make sense. And I was like, wait, what? That's why. And I started connecting the dots to everything, even going back to grade school, even going back to that conversation of being accepted as a peer mediator. It all started making sense. Even growing up as a child and being the person whose thought process was totally different from everyone else around me. And people thought people thought that, my way of looking at things was just not the way that we do it. But I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense. This is more logical. This is more rational,
Yep.
And I didn't have, at that time, I didn't know coaching. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't have those types of mentors around me. But I never gave up. I stayed true to who I was, even though it wasn't popular, even though it didn't, necessarily have people enjoying having me around, so
Yeah.
but it definitely improved myself in all areas of life, financially, with relationships, both intimate and platonic relationships. Like, speaking on that briefly, once I discovered my purpose and just got in alignment with who I am and with what my values are, like, relationships are no longer as jarring as they used to be, because now I make purposeful and intentional decisions, and I am very mindful of protecting the people or the space that I allow people to share. It also has improved the area of finances. Like, the word budget, I know a lot of people may not like that, but budget gives freedom. And ever since I discovered my purpose and, again, just got in alignment with everything in my life, my financial situation improved and stabilized. So yes, to answer your question.
It's amazing how it changes your life,
Yes.
your whole outlook, everything. And you were talking about marriage. My first marriage, it lasted 17 years. I was like you, I got married real young, and I lost who I was. I didn't really have a purpose. It was that same old grind, just get up, go to work, come home, do whatever you need to do around the house and whatnot. But it just dawned on me. Are you familiar with The Secret?
The book or the movie?
Yeah, the book
Yeah.
and the movie. So I just happened upon that movie and I watched it one day, and I had this overwhelming feeling of, I'm going to try this. And I said, I want to change my life. I want my life to be what it's supposed to be. And not too long after that, I had a heart attack. After I got out of the hospital, my wife left, ran off with the younger guy. And you think, wow, that didn't work. But actually it did, because after I had the heart attack is when I found out that I had diabetes and all that. And so that's when I started to take care of myself and lost weight. And when she left, it was actually the best thing that happened to me, because it gave me an opportunity to live by myself and figure out who I was. And after 10 years, um, I, I believe the universe was speaking to me and said, I think you're ready to get into a real relationship. And that's when I met my wife that I have now. And meeting her, I'm doing the things that I enjoy that I never did before, going places that I never went before. Uh, I mean, she even helped me to get on my spiritual journey, which got me back my relationship with God. And that was missing out of my life for a while. I used to preach. I was a Baptist preacher for 5 years. And it's just amazing. You ask the universe, and the universe will answer. And sometimes it's in the form of somebody helping you. You know, I had a breakdown, but that got me to therapy, and then they properly diagnosed me and got me on the track to, get over all that stuff. I mean, you still have your down times, but for the most part, I could deal with it now. And the therapists that I've had, and they've been wonderful. And now look, I get to do this.
That is awesome. And that's a perfect example of how you were able to explain how you can find a positive in even just those two things you mentioned, having a heart attack and your wife leaving you. Anyone else who, who hasn't connected to, this whole idea, they would be like, how can you find a positive in either of those? But you can. So I'm so happy to hear that that's how things ended up for you. And I'm happy that you shared it, because that's a great example of what I was talking about earlier.
Well, I'm the only example that I can really talk about. I'm not trying to brag here. I'm just saying that there is hope. I know there's someone out there that's watching this or listening to this, and they're going through something terrible, and they think, well, how can things get better? How can I find that silver lining? And sometimes it takes someone like you to show them that.
Absolutely. And definitely don't feel that it's bragging, or don't apologize for feeling as though you're sharing too much about you. You're not. Like, you went through those things for a reason. You went through those things to be able to share it for other people. So share it as often as you can, and don't ever feel, that, oh my goodness, I don't want to feel like I'm bragging on myself, or that I'm talking too much about me. No, you went through what you went through for a reason, and part of that reason is to share it with other people, to be a walking testimony, to be a walking example. Someone needs to hear it. And even if you're sharing it 10 times a day, someone out of those 10 times needed to hear it. And unfortunately, we may not know exactly which one of the 10. That's why you just have to keep sharing it. So please continue.
A part of what and I should do this more often, but I started doing positive affirmations. And one of those, and I stress with everyone, that gratitude will change your attitude. I'm sure that's part of your philosophy.
Absolutely. I love it. That's right.
Uh, Now, speaking on all this, um, there's someone that's maybe still reluctant, and I want them to know that it's not going to hurt you to at least give it a try. So, if you could you kind of share what you do when you're helping someone?
Definitely. First things first, that consultation is where I love to connect with someone who's considering it,
Mhm.
someone who's never been exposed to it, it being coaching, or even form of therapy for someone who may want to know the difference, for someone who may not know which of the two. I don't just accept any and everyone. I do the consultation intentionally to see if that person and myself will be a good fit for each other, but then also to make sure that it's coaching that they need and coaching that they will be able to benefit from versus possibly seeing a therapist first.
Mhm.
So that's one thing about at least coming to me, where I let the person know, hey, like, I'm not here just to take your money or anything like that. It doesn't benefit me or my results or anything or your results. Just to say, okay, hey, sign on the dotted line and let's start working together. And you and I may not be a good fit for each other personality wise, and or coaching is not what that person may need in that moment or that phase of life. So the consultation is definitely the first step. It's a no obligation, no risk opportunity to simply just do what you and I are doing right now, Kyle.
Mhm.
We're just simply having a conversation and we're talking and we're connecting. At the same time, I'm learning what the things are, what different areas in a person's life that they want assistance or guidance in. And then in that conversation is when we both make a decision where we both decide, okay, is this a good fit? Once, let's just say, if we do decide it is a good fit and we want to move forward, then that's when I start gathering more information, as far as getting it's kind of like an assessment of a person. Okay, what are the different things that you've been dealing with, more specifically, and what are your goals? What do you want to get out of our coaching relationship? Because those are the things that we're going to focus on. Yes, I will guide through the situation, but at the end of the day, my clients, they're in control. They let me know what they want to talk about. They let me know what they want to discuss. And with that information, I then put the tools and everything together and the systems together. And based off of that, we have a customized plan that we create. As long as you're comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with it, we're going to move forward, and we work week by week by week, and until you're good to go, until you have reached your goal, because we need to be able to have a way of measuring, hey, did we actually achieve this goal? We need to create a very specific goal, to where we can say, okay, did you meet this? If you did, then we know that you hit your goal. And so, yeah, it's a team effort. It's a teamwork approach.
Mhm.
It can get quite emotional in those sessions, because I am pulling a lot out of you. But it's also, again, to help pull out those answers that you already have within you. And for me, my goal is not to have a lifelong client. It's for me to get you to a place to where you can take over and move on yourself. So I hope that answers your question, but
Oh, yeah.
that's, the journey, so to speak, for someone who's kind of like, I don't know, that kind of gives them an idea of what they can expect with working with me.
I guess how I'm fortunate is I get to talk to people like you, and if I feel like I'm getting a free session when I do these.
Right, exactly.
Well, sometimes we need reassurance too. I mean, we're on a good path, but some obstacle pops up and you need a little bit of reassurance. I've had life coaches tell me they confide in me. Yeah, I have to have a coach myself sometimes.
100%. Coaches need a coach.
Mhm.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Especially since especially with what we're dealing with. We're taking on a lot of people's stuff.
Yeah.
And it's only wise for us to have a coach as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Do you have other goals outside of what you're doing now?
I do. Well, you say outside of what I'm doing now,
Or
I
is
would
it just an
say
extension of what you're doing?
yes, that would be the better answer. Definitely an extension of what I'm doing. I'm going to say it here. My goal is to, okay, so, with a coach and clients, we're typically in those individual sessions. So we're working with the one person. My goal is to take my sessions and the information and the systems and do it to the masses. And so I would love to, and I'm working towards being able to have like my own Sirius XM um, spot or station or channel or segment or whatnot, to where I can do what I do, but on a bigger scale, just so I can help more people at a time.
You're gonna be
That's
a
my ultimate goal.
you're gonna be another Tony Robbins.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Oh man, that would be awesome.
That guy's something else, isn't he?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
All right, so you are a coach.
Yes.
You are a author.
Yes.
Let's see. There was something else we talked about, and I let's
Speaker
a speaker. What
and a
up?
mediator.
And a mediator. So you got a lot on your plate.
I'm kind of glad you mentioned that, because it really isn't. So thinking back to, or just thinking about what skills
Mhm,
and what I do, what I talk about, what skills are required to perform all of those services,
mhm,
they're exactly the same. I only talk about and deal with personal development. As a speaker, I'm speaking on the same exact topics that I coach on.
mhm.
As a coach, I'm using those same tools, those same techniques, the same conversations as a mediator. It's all about effective communication. It's all about active listening. It's all about controlling your emotions, whether I'm in a coaching session or I'm helping people mediate. It's controlling emotions. It's the same exact things. My product is basically a physical version of the things that I verbally talk about. As I think that covers everything: speaker, coaching, mediator. It's all the same. It just allows me to diversify
Mhm.
those streams and create multiple streams of income because the clientele is different.
But you're very well organized.
Yes, yes, that's one
That
of my
it's a big difference. I'm not quite as well organized, but I try.
that's one of my passions: organization and time management. I love it. And that's one of the things that, when it comes to being a self-mastery coach, is being productive, maximizing your time, also understanding the importance of having breaks and not overdoing it, not overwhelming yourself with your schedule, and managing your time. Like, all of that is a part of self-mastery. And that's also one of the things that I teach with clients as well.
Yeah, something that I see, I'll watch a video on YouTube, and the person gets on and talks about how, oh, I do this every day, Saturday and Sunday. I do it on the holidays, and always doing my videos. And I mean, that's great. It's a great ambition to have, but I also feel like it's important to balance it with family time and me time.
Absolutely. That's a key to great time management, is also being intentional with turning off and getting away from the computer, getting away from whatever you do, getting away from that, stepping away. Years ago, I learned that lesson the hard way. And this was before I really understood the importance of taking a break, and that just going is really not the best way. So, I call it the Team No Sleep Club,
Mm,
where I was just going. This is actually back during my divorce. This is part of that time of my life that was the most difficult thing that I've ever dealt with.
mm,
And with having to keep up with the house and the expenses and my school and being a mom, and then going through the emotional stuff of a divorce and all of that, I was just driving, going, and I would not, there was no time to sleep. I barely maybe got on a good night, 4 hours of sleep. And eventually my body physically crashed on my living room floor and I
mm.
lost consciousness for hours. It
Wow.
was the scariest thing. When I woke up, I was like, what happened? And yeah, so I learned the hard way. And so now I teach it So therefore, other people do not have to learn it that way. Learn from my experience, learn from my choices, and learn from my mistakes. That
Mhm.
is, yeah, I'm so big on taking a break, taking breaks throughout the day, taking time away from anything that you do on it, like just get away from things.
It's so important to have that balance. You have
Yes,
to, and it has to be a balance. I mean, you have to have your time for yourself. You have to have time for your work. You have to have time for your family. You have to have time. I'm a big advocate, but for God, if not for God, if you don't believe in God, you at least you have to have something that you can believe in, that you can give that time to. But I believe it's God.
yes, I'm right there with you. Absolutely. And so since you brought it up, then I'll now speak on it because I like to respect everyone's channels. And so um I didn't want to say anything about it prior to, you opening that door, but I'll just speak and just say that I am who I am today, and I made it through all the different things that I've been through in life because of my faith in God. And I'll leave it at that.
That's good. And you got to take care of your health, and that's physical and mental health.
That's right.
So much, because well, once that gets out of whack, that's why I think people don't succeed, because they don't get a good balance between all of those.
Exactly. And that's the importance of self mastery.
Exactly. Then you have a website, I assume.
I do. So it's Nrgy Speaks Life, and energy is spelled Nrgy. EnergySpeaksLife.com. That is my website where people can go to one, if they're interested in doing a consultation, they can sign up and jump on my calendar there. Two, if they want to connect with me via social media, they can go to the website to then click on the links to connect with me via their preferred social media platform. Also, if they are interested in purchasing the product, then they can do that directly through the website as well. And then also, if there is any additional information, like you were saying, what we're doing right now, what you do on a regular basis, Kyle, we are providing free content,
Mhm.
valuable information out there. And so, by going to my website, people will also be able to get information via the blogs that I've posted, and will be able to link to my own podcast as well. So, the website is basically the best place, and it's the hub of all information for Nrgy.
Do you put your content out at a certain time for your
I
podcast?
I don't because my schedule is not standard. I don't have a typical schedule, but I do at least do it weekly. So that's the only consistent part about it. It's weekly. But as far as a particular day at a certain time, no, that would that would restrain me too much. Yeah.
I want to make sure that I get all the links and put them in the description, because I do want people to be able to click on it and go straight to it. So anything else that you'd like to share that you want me to put in the description, please send it to me. Any words of encouragement before we end the show?
Absolutely. I'll definitely send you the information. But my last words would be to share with your listeners would be just always remember that when you master your mind and you master your emotions, you master your assignment, you can then live your purpose and live on purpose.
Words of wisdom. Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time. I know everyone's time is precious, and you spending it here with me it's been really wonderful.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. And to you all out there, if you've happened by the channel, and I appreciate that. I'm glad that you did stop by, and I hope you'll come back. Please subscribe. If you are a regular, for that, I can't thank you enough. It's because of you that I get to do this, and I get wonderful people like Nrgy here on the show. And if it's not her, find someone that you can talk to that can help you. If it's therapy you need, please get to it. I'm a big advocate for mental health. I know what it can do to you. And until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network